What's going on, everybody? Landon here with Home Service Business Coach. It is good to be back with you, and it's also good to be back with you, Jackson, or Coach Jackson, owner of Mount Baker Window Cleaning. Jackson, I don't know when everybody's going to be listening to this, but we got a good topic. I think probably one of the most requested topics we've gotten, and that's how to grow a 100K per month exterior cleaning business. It's going to be full of tips, but most importantly, I'm a firm believer of this. Life's not about addition, but rather subtraction. And I really want to focus on some of the mistakes, super common mistakes. Going to be mindset stuff, because to grow to 100K a month, Jackson, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not all about having an 80 grand rig or the best equipment. We're offering everything under the sun, but rather how you offer the one service you have, if you only have that. So Jackson, I'll kind of open it up with you, man. 2023 been an interesting year. Before we dive into it, man, how have things looked and shaped up here with yourself and with Mount Baker Window Cleaning?
And I would say 2023, we had a lot of learning to do this year. Last year, we saw some explosive growth, blew our numbers out of the water from 2021 and 2022. 2023, we saw some market shifts. Some things became a little bit easier. Some things became a little bit more difficult. We actually ended up doing more jobs this year than last year. But everything came with it came with challenges, and it was great to learn a little bit, pivot where we needed to, and continue to run this amazing business that I've been blessed to start. And we've just had such a good team, and every day I'm so proud of them getting out there and doing what they do best. And man, it's been a great year despite its challenges and ups and downs. But that's just part of business. You got to learn how to ride the roller coaster. And looking back on the end of the year, man, we did so many things so well. So, it's overall, it's a win.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's that kind of is reminiscent of that old fact. Golly, it's only 2008, which seems like yesterday, but what are we at? Almost 15 years or something like that. 2008, 2009, we have that crash. Obviously, I was still very young at the time, but the most millionaires came out of that 2008, 2009 economic crisis. And it's going to be no different for the COVID recession, interest rate hiking that's happened across the world. I'm in Canada, you're in the US. The same thing. Our Fed has hiked the exact same as your Fed. And we'll both find ourselves in more of a recession where things are tight, milk's more expensive, gas, your basic commodities, people are tightening up. But it's through these learning experiences of, hey, now we actually got to work to have a claim of, I have 100K a month cleaning business. So Jackson, I guess that kind of leads me into my first question right off the bat. Why is it, in your estimation, so rare to see 100K a month cleaning businesses, or maybe even 100K a month home service businesses? Like, why do you think it's so rare?
I think what it really comes down to is a lot of business owners out there, when talking about a home service business, they don't have a CEO mindset. Many folks that own home service businesses came in as a technician into their business, and they simply just don't have that switch to flick on that puts them into that CEO chair and helps them grow their business. And that's just the truth of it. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Everyone's business is there to serve a different purpose for everyone, right? Some people love getting out there every day and cleaning windows or pressure washing or cutting lawns, and they'll do that until they're 50, 60 years old and retire happily. And other people want to come in and build a business that operates, without them, and continue to stack on assets into their life and, build their future as an entrepreneur. So really, there's no right or wrong answer to it. But the reason that you don't see a lot of those 100K a month businesses is because a lot of folks out there just don't have that CEO mindset that you need to grow a business to get to that level.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. And I know that mindset can be this kind of big, maybe metaphysical almost type of thing. Mindset. What does that mean? What does that mean, right? When you were talking there, a question popped in for you, Jackson. Was it easier, or a huge common thing? It's like, oh, there's going to be a lot of headaches if I add team members, if I grow to that level, and I don't know if I want to do that. What have you found easier when you were on your way to getting to kind of that 300K mark and you were just hustling at it every day, you know, hitting the doors, doing everything, being the literal CEO, the chief everything officer, or now running a 100K a month? What have you found easier? And maybe that this will help kind of break that faulty belief of the bigger I grow, the more money, more problems type of mindset.
In my experience, my life now is so much easier. It's not even comparable to what it was like to get to 300, 400,000. You know, the next steps from here, in my opinion, are going to be a lot easier for me. That being said, it's not like I don't have challenges. You just have different challenges to face because you're in a different pair of shoes, you know? So the challenges that you face to get, you know, from 0 to 300 or 400, 500,000, you know, it's very hectic. It's chaotic. You're doing a lot, and everything can come crashing down on you at once, and it feels like the world's going to end. And, you know, the problems that you face in a much larger business, in my experience, it hasn't been, I mean, there are moments of chaos, right? There are. But because you've hopefully built a really good team around you at this point, there are certain buffers that help certain situations and problems from ever reaching you, or sometimes that they're smoothed out before they get to you. So you're just dealing with a whole different set of problems and coming up with different solutions than you were, you know, at that 0 to 200, 400, $500,000 mark.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Wait, if you think of any Fortune 500 company, maybe, and again, this could be maybe too pie in the sky, but the question I always am thinking to myself is, how can these guys run? I'm talking a multinational $50 billion a year company, right? There's one CEO at the helm. There's a board around them, right? It comes down to, guys, it's not that, you know, Johnson & Johnson or Nike or Apple have the best equipment, or Tesla even. They released their new Cybertruck at the time of this recording. The infrastructure is massive, I can imagine. It's not because they have the best facilities and best equipment. Does that help? Yeah, but it's more based on the people and the systems, and also the CEO's knowledge of getting around people that are much smarter than them. And I think that that's something that you've really embodied in, and it shows, obviously, with Mount Baker, which, let's segue in. I think, again, it's that subtraction rather than addition. The mistakes. There are 1,000 different mistakes that I hear on a daily basis from gentlemen that I speak with, and the few ladies we do. Jackson, you've obviously had the pleasure of now coaching over 100 plus guys, I think. What are now there's a million mistakes we could assume, right? We could make, or we could say. What is the top 3 in your mind, the top 3 to 5 maybe mistakes that keep business owners locked into where they're at and just will never be able to get and attain that coveted 100K, not revenue, 100K a month mark?
Okay. Number one.
It's a lot, buddy, so I apologize.
No, it's fine. Okay. Number one is that most business owners, and you see this when you go to an event like the huge convention in Nashville, most business owners are way too concerned about the equipment in their business than the systems and tools they're utilizing to organize and actually operate their business. And I mean, you just see it walking around a convention like that. A lot of the booths with, let's say, like knowledge tools or organizational tools or systems are a lot emptier, less busy than, you know, those booths that have skids and water-fed poles and what have it you. So it's just pretty interesting. Like, a lot of folks just have that kind of obsession over it, and it's not, like I said, it's not a bad thing, but that obsession over your equipment and tools, it means that you're going to lack the obsession needed to actually grow and scale. And here comes number 2, which ties into it, is a lot of these business owners are spending too much time learning how to be the best technician in their business. And again, obsessing over equipment, obsessing over chemicals, and really diving into that realm, which is not a bad thing. I'm not going to say that's a bad thing. I think it's really good. If you're going to run a company, you should be able to do it really, really well. complete your service at 100%, 120%. That's great. But it's also not helping you when you realize where is all your time to grow the business. If that's where you're spending all of your energy and your knowledge and your learning, if it's just into tools, soaps, chemicals, equipment, it's just not going to be there. And then number 3, which is huge. This is why a lot of business owners that have tried to hire a team have crashed and failed and gone back to operating solo or just sold their business altogether, is because many businesses hire technicians without actually building a foundation for those technicians to be successful upon.
Yeah. So I mean, if you guys listening to this have been around us for any length of time, it comes back to like really a couple key points. Your mindset obviously leads, but then also this hiring component as well too, and the kind of fallacies that come along with it. Jackson, I was speaking with a gentleman yesterday, 150K business. A lot of you listening to this are kind of in that shoes, in and around there, right? And it's this I've heard very often. I've learned everything on my own, and there's immense pride in that, that I started, I had no idea. I watched YouTube, I learned this. I'm so good now at the work, whatever that is, landscaping, painting, washing a window. There's that pride. And then what I'm thinking is, why is there not the pride that, look, I'm the best at hiring. Look, I can get leads for days. I'm not the best window cleaner. It's very rare that I'll have a guy. It's like, hey, I'm not the best window cleaner. I provide a high quality service. I aim to please that, but I don't want to be the best window cleaner. It's extremely rare. Jackson, I think we're missing the mark, a lot of guys.
Absolutely. I mean, what's interesting at Mount Baker Window Cleaning is, and I think maybe this is going to rub a few people the wrong way, but, we've grown a very successful soft washing, pressure washing business. We're one of the top rated roof cleaners in the area, top rated, in the state. We only use water, bleach, and laundry detergent. And then to wash windows, we have dish soap. And I see these photos of other cleaners. They have, an entire storage unit filled with different chemicals, and they've got different processes for this and that. And I'm like, man, that's great. Like, that is great. But the fact that we've made things so simple and we've just focused on a few things is, one of the keys to our success. I don't necessarily care to be able to go out there and remove every different type of stain from a sidewalk or from siding. We have a promise that we're going to take care of your organic growth. We're going to take care of the dirt. We're going to get it done. We're going to do it well. And we deliver on that time after time again. And, that's because I stepped into that CEO mindset and I said, okay, if we're going to grow this, what's going to be the most repeatable? Is it going to be having a walk-in closet filled with hundreds of different types of chemicals and soaps and processes and tools, or is it going to be having a very simple process that we can do over and over and over and over again? And, lo and behold, it was that second option of simplifying things, not trying to be the most comprehensive cleaners out there, but just doing something over and over again that we can do really well. And that's the difference between people who are going to be that best technician, which again, I have no issue with it. I think it's awesome that people have such a love for it. But if you want to grow and scale, you might need to look at focusing your efforts on other things than being that best technician, being the absolute most knowledgeable on your physical processes in the field, and start focusing on your processes in the office, in sales, in marketing.
The boring stuff, Jackson, the boring stuff, the not so fun stuff. I've said this on previous podcasts, and you guys have heard this, and sure you've heard this, Jackson. KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Everybody wants to overcomplicate everything, including their rigs. I was talking with a gentleman 2 days ago, doing about 400K in work, right? I'm like, that's great, right? Lots of commercial. I'm like, this is cool, right? We'd spoken last year. I was like, hey, I just want to touch base with you. For 15 minutes, Jackson, I had a conversation with this individual all about equipment and about chemicals. And I'm like, you know what, man? We can't help you. Like I was like, hey, I'll send you some more information, but I wanted to get off the phone. Because Jackson, we know how long that pivot takes. And the longer you do something, the more ingrained it is. And the complexity at the scale he was doing it was way overcomplicated, but it sounded really cool to other people in the industry. It's like, oh yeah. Oh, wow, you have all this stuff? Wow, that's crazy, right? Homeowner don't care. To your point, they don't care. Can you do the job? And if you want to be the geek, and I mean geek in no derogatory term at all, if you want to geek out on the equipment and get all these fancy stuff, and maybe you, instead of completing a job in 2 hours, you get it done in an hour and 50 minutes because you have all this complicated equipment or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. We're not talking to that. We're talking about growing 100K a month. And we're talking to Jackson, who's done that consistently over months and years. And Jackson, that kind of leads me, you mentioned the mindset's obviously a big thing, but then also keeping things simple. What would be some tips for those guys? And maybe young guys who know Alex Hormozi, and if you don't know who he is, check him out. But we were starting to get overrun in the best possible sense with these young guys who are hungry, who are like, hey, I want to grow this business to 100K. I'm 23, I'm 25, I'm 28, however old they are. I want to grow this business. Obviously, there's, again, just like there's a million things what not to do, there's a million things to do. But Jackson, what was the top maybe 3 to 5 things that were the mover and shaker for Mount Baker window cleaning and for the guys you're seeing that you coach on a day in and day out basis?
So I would say it was, just like we were talking about, it was initially changing my mindset from technician into a CEO and becoming more of an expert into marketing and sales. So I'll actually break this down into 3 things. If you want to grow, what you need to do. 3 simple, well, they're not simple once you get into them, but I'll try and make it easy for you for listening purposes. So 1, become a master of marketing and sales. Number 2 is build an irresistible company culture that people can't stay away from. And then 3 is going to be hire to replace yourself time after time again. Those 3 things. So if you want to dive into number 1 here, becoming a master of marketing and sales, it needs to happen. Your business can only be as big as the amount of leads and conversions, you are getting in your business, right? If you're only receiving 50 leads a month, no matter how many you can convert out of those, you're never going to be able to put 100 people on the schedule in a month. And so once you change your mindset and go, okay, I'm going to stop learning how to clean this window the best or the fastest, and I'm going to learn how I can market my business and my brand as well as possible, and then sell this brand as best possible. That's when you're going to start to see those leads coming in. But now also this relies on you having these other 2 key components that we're talking about here. And the number 2 is you need to build an irresistible company culture. And time after time again, I see businesses that don't have enough meat on the bone or incentives for their employees or enough foundation for them to be successful on. And what happens is they quit. And then, you hear these business owners saying, I can't find anyone good in my area. No one can do this job. Everyone around me is incompetent, which just isn't true. Take a look in the mirror and ask yourself, what was your training program like? How good of a leader are you? How well have you incentivized your team? Have you made your job fun at all for anyone? And, when you ask yourself that, if you've been in that position, yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough. A lot of it comes down to you. There's a saying that your business is nothing without your people, right? But your people rely on you as a leader. They rely on you to have built something for them to be successful in. And if you haven't put that there, if you haven't spent the time to give them the tools, the resources to build a business where they can be successful in and happy in, well, then you're going to fail every single time. There's no question about it. And it's just, it needs to happen if you want to grow a business with multiple crews and managers. There's no way.
Yeah. No, I love that, Jackson, because I wanted to touch on this as well too, on the marketing side of things as well. Such a common thing, and I think this is a mistake too, is that SEO is your golden savior, golden ticket to unlocking the plethora of leads in your area. And the same thing on the hiring side. If I just crafted the perfect employee job ad, I would just get the good people in my area, right? There's common small fallacies. Now, not that they're untrue, but small things that make you, again, that old saying, airplane leaves from LA to go to New York. If it's 0.1 degree off, it's ending up in Newfoundland, Canada, right? It's way off of it because over a long enough time horizon, just takes the smallest of degrees off with that. SEO is not the answer. Is it a component? 100%. Absolutely. But the question you're asking for all of you guys who have hired agencies or with an agency, if you're spending $1,000 or $1,500 a month on that and then paying for advertisement, why are you just handing the keys over to somebody else? You're not learning anything on how to market more when you come to us. Shameless plug, everybody. Shameless plug. And then we will teach you everything when it comes to the business. Jackson, I want to touch on this, man. You mentioned you have to become an expert almost with mindset, removed from technician to actually being a business owner. I really want to get practical because we could spend literally probably 100 hours on how to hire correctly. But what is like a critical component? How do I, Jackson, switch my mind from technician to CEO? What would be one or two things that I can start to do as I listen to this podcast?
I think a really big part of that is going to come down to scheduling your time in a way so that you're forced to work on your business rather than in your business. A lot of people out there, they're like, man, I don't have time to do these in-person sales. I don't have time to build a vision or, to work on my business and build this marketing plan. And it's because the time isn't budgeted. And, I think a really big issue is that people see the success in their business of them being on the truck and completing a job, right? Because, if you started from nothing, that has been how you have been making money as a business owner. And, you have been in those technician shoes, and as many jobs as you, the business owner / technician, complete, you get paid for. And so it's like, a reward program, essentially. You're like, I do this, I get rewarded. I do this, I get paid. And once you do that time over time again, you build pathways in your brain that tell you, I need to do this, to do X job to get this reward, which is your payment, your revenue at the end of the year. And so it's really hard to break that. But you need to start making new pathways in your brain that say, okay, actually, if I want to make more money, if I want to remove myself from the truck, I need to work on these things. And it doesn't pay off instantly, which is why it's difficult to make that switch, right? Because as soon as you're off the truck, you're in the office, maybe you've just hired your crew for the first time, you're going to notice a little drop in your, what you're taking home. Now you're paying people. Maybe you haven't had the chance to actually increase your lead flow. You don't have a second truck to go on the road. And you're like, man, I'm losing money. Like, what's going on? And then you hit the panic button and you jump back on the truck to start producing revenue because that's what will make you that money, that instant gratification. So it's difficult to make that switch because it takes time. But I promise you, if you do carve out the time in your day to start working on your business, you stop focusing yourself on actually completing the physical jobs at hand and being on site. You start building systems for your employees to go out there and make money. You start building systems to increase your sales funnels and your leads. That's when you're going to start to notice a really big return. And it might take months. It could take a year, but it will happen if you put that time in and you're educated on it, right?
I was not expecting that, Jackson. I was not expecting that, but it's so good. So good. Stop. Do the boring work. As again, maybe to use Hormozy again, do the boring shit. Do the stuff nobody's going to thank you for, right? But yourself, but your future self, and maybe 5 to 10 years will thank, man, I'm so happy in 2023 or 2024. I sat down, I did the boring stuff nobody's going to thank me for. The back end systems, the follow-ups, the quoting online, the emails, all this stuff nobody's going to give you glory for because it's expected. But the stuff that actually moves the business, and more importantly, to your point, the mindset.
Yeah, and I want to touch on, I had 3 points here on the things that really helped Mount Baker window cleaning reach that mark. And, the third one is hire to replace yourself again and again and again. And I think this was the biggest factor in us growing as fast as we did. We went from $415,000 a year to a $925,000 a year. Just insane growth. And the reason that we were so successful in doing that is because I made a leap of faith to hire managers that I thought could do the job better than me. So I'm not even sure we were at a level where most people would feel comfortable in hiring a production manager and an office manager. But in my eyes, it was like, man, if I can do this, if I can hire them and they can really focus in on their tasks at hand, take it off of my hands from me, so I'm freed up to think about sales and marketing. They can deal with our clients, they can deal with our team, they can deal with the equipment. I knew that my mind would be, set at ease, not having to deal with a lot of these problems that most business owners are, at these early stages in business dealing with. And man, it was so true. Even though a manager is not necessarily going to directly bring you revenue, in this situation, when I hired these managers, they were able to grow our revenues so much. They weren't actually the ones out there doing the job, but because now they were able to give more attention to our crews, to our clients. Man, it was so powerful. When I was doing it, man, I'm trying to deal with our clients. I'm trying to deal with our technicians. I'm trying to deal with the equipment that's been broken. I'm trying to deal with our finances, all the back end work. And it was just too much. You burn out, you sizzle out at some point if you have to think about every little thing in your business. And so honestly, that was the biggest catapult for us was firing myself from the production manager, firing myself from the office manager, and hiring people that were very capable into those positions that could concentrate on their roles and responsibilities so much harder than I was able to, focused on so many other things.
So good, Jackson. Do you think pride has something to do with it? As men, we're prideful. We got egos. Every single one of us does. We like to act like we're all righteous and we don't have, we're all humble. Deep down, it feels good when, hey, pretty good, you did a great job. Hey, you do everything? Pretty good. Do you think pride has anything to do with it?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's a lot of, you hear it firsthand. Oh, I don't think anyone's going to be able to clean windows as good as me, or they're not going to be able to make our clients as happy as, as I've been. I love being the face of my business because I've built these relationships with them, and what are they going to do when I'm gone? And, if you don't build a foundation and you hire crappy people, you don't have good processes for that, well then, yeah, that's probably going to happen. You're not wrong in that sense. But if you do the work, if you put in the work to build this foundation, you put in the work to hire really good people, you put in the work to keep those people happy, they'll end up doing a better job than you. Truly, because they're only focused on that job. Whereas you, the business owner, have a million other things going on in your head. And, I've had the pleasure of watching tons of new reviews pour in with our technicians' names. Oh, they're so nice. They did this. They went out of their way. Oh, the office manager's great to deal with. And I'm like, whoo, I could not do that right now with everything on my mind. So I'm happy that that team is there because they're really good at what they do.
That's hiring those rock stars, man. They're out there, guys. So don't let your mindset or your pride or not knowing what to do kind of holds you back from doing what you know you need to do, and what your future self will thank you for is maybe allotting that time. Maybe you're listening to it and you're convicted, but you're like, hey, I'm scheduled a month out. And then in a month out, you forget that, oh yeah, I was going to go schedule time to actually sit and build the business. Or you're so concerned, stressing about things that don't matter if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I don't have like a lot of lead flow, right? It's almost like this catch-22, Jackson, that we experience, right? If I hire a manager or a technician, I'm going to lose out initially on some revenue, right? It's the condition where, like, for us, it's like, okay, I don't really have a lot of leads right now. I've been struggling to get leads for a year, 2, 3 years even. Last 4 months, extremely slow. My cash is small. I think then again, it's like something needs to change, and you got to maybe invest some more money, maybe even going with a program like us, and we'll teach you how to fish. We'll teach you all the different methods. It's going to take time. It's not going to be easy, but if you're dedicated enough, it'll happen. And I'm speaking to somebody who's a living, a breathing example, Mr. Jackson Blackburn right here, right? Maybe it's almost that kind of, and that all comes down to mindset. We've had the guys that are like, man, I'm banking it all. You know, I might even go into some debt to get in the program, so that right now I know it's going to suck. It's hurting. My bank account's hurting. But the future, we look at these guys, you know, Ryan Batts is a prime example of this, and so many others. It's just when we look at 6 months, a year, 2 years down the line, it's like, man, my future self is thanking myself for taking that leap of faith, which it is. And that's anything in life. Anything else you want to add, Jackson? I hope people have been taking some value from this. I've been taking so much value from this, but anything else you want to kind of leave?
Yeah, I feel like we just scratched the surface of a bunch of topics that, you know, are important to growing $100,000 business. And I'm excited to go deeper into them in some further podcasts. You know, like we mentioned, building an irresistible company culture. Be on the lookout for that one, you know, coming up soon, I hope, because that's going to be a great one. And it's a note that I would say 95% of home service business owners just completely miss.
Mm-hmm. No, and it was evident even at the huge convention, right? Mr. Tommy Mello. If you don't know who he is, guys, look him up. You guys all should know who Tommy Mello is. He's famous in the industry. It's going over their head. He's talking about company culture, and it's like, yeah, hoses and gallons per minute and paints. I'm being facetious, obviously. We don't mean to make some fun. We're just joking. But yeah, it's so interesting, Jackson. So guys, if anything that we've talked about today has convicted you, and we're going to, again, like Jackson said, we could spend 5 hours on each one of these things. We hit on 10 to 15 things. We could talk till we're blue in the face. The podcast, and you're thinking, man, these guys are scratching the surface with this podcast. You want to know more. If you want to know more, we have other streams. We have the YouTube, so maybe you can see this face to face. We have free resources. We have a $97 club. But guys, if you've been felt convicted during this, or like, man, I know what I need to do, I'm just scared to do it, book a call with me. Jackson, you could probably recite what I'm about to say. We got to figure out 2 things. Got to figure out if we like you. We got to figure out if we can help you. Because Jackson, we've had some guys that I was talking to them. I'm like, man, you are prideful, bro. We can't help you. Right? So there's guys we don't like, and that's just life. Number 2, there's guys that we just can't help. And Jackson, what would be a big reason? I know my answer, but what would be a big reason as to maybe why they have that call with me, they take the leap of faith, they come on board with our program? It doesn't work out necessarily as much as people thought it, or maybe they had the expectation it would. What do you think? I have my answer.
Oh, I think the biggest thing is that people think that we're just going to do it for them.
Okay, well, you stole my answer.
Yeah, well, we can't just inject your business with, you know, a magical shot. You need to actually show up. You need to be present, put the work in, and that's where you see the difference. We had a recent member. Oh my, I am so happy with this guy. You know, this kid I don't even think he's 20 years old yet. comes into the program and goes, hey man, I'm already through modules 1 through 5, which generally it takes most people a few months to do this, if they even get there. And I'm like, oh man, okay, well, do you have the systems? Do you do all the homework? And he goes, yeah. Kid did this in 2 weeks. Filled out, like, I'm just so happy. And like, that's the difference, man. When you show up and you are ready to put in the work, you get straight to it. You dive in, you don't just learn, but you implement it, you put it to work in your business. That's when you start to watch things absolutely blow up in your business and things really change. And I'll tell you, that was my mindset as a young person coming into this program. And my employees that had been with us for, multiple years would say, man, is this the same business that we started working for? Like, it doesn't seem like it is. Did we get new jobs? Like, what happened here? So, it's showing up, it's putting in the work, and it's making it, come to life in your business.
Yeah, because we're getting in the trenches with you. I mean, we will fight tooth and nail. Like, we genuinely, I don't know if I should say this, pardon my French, everybody, we genuinely give a shit about you guys, about your success. And that starts from the initial conversation with me. And we don't know if you're going to be one of those individuals that are going to come alongside us, and we're going to come alongside you. Not going to be able to do everything. Like I said, there's no magic pill formula here. But if you're ready to work, we're ready. We've been ready. We're waiting and we're ready. So schedule that call with me. The link will be below. I don't really pressure you into anything. I will make your life more difficult if I like you and I'm 100% confident we can help you. So schedule the call below. Jackson, enough plugging away. Jackson, absolute pleasure to speak with you today, guys. Just to give kind of a couple bullet points. It is fine if you don't want to scale your business, whatever in home service business it is. That is fine. That is cool. No problem. If you do though, biggest thing, make that shift from technician to CEO. Take the time to actually work on the business, not in the business. Become an expert in sales and marketing, and start to get over your own fallacies of hiring, and also build that team culture. So Jackson, as always, absolute pleasure to have you on here. Take care, everybody. Jackson, any final thoughts? You want to leave us with a quote or anything like that?
Oh man, out of quotes. I'll see you guys on the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that, guys. Take care, everybody. Thank you, Jackson. We'll talk with you soon.